to you about winter and talking about a few things that are going on in the office that are new this season. So one of them is talking about snow squall messaging. We're doing a project with a bunch of surrounding offices and actually some with Penn State, and then so that's something new. And then we're going to do hazard services development. So that's something different for how we issue our winter weather products. So I'll get into that right now. So the Snow Squall project, I'll just mention this. There's just a few slides on this. So we got emailed like 2 or 3 months ago, I guess, from State College, and also Penn State seems to spark some interest on snow squalls. And then, so that we had this conference call. I did a screenshot of that conference call back in September. So we were just pretty much collaborating with each other about, messages, snow squalls, and we were kind of looking into this aspect of flash freezes that occur with snow squalls, and why does that heavily impact accidents. So what we're doing is we're all pretty much examining road temperatures before, during, and after a snow squall passes an observation. So that's kind of hard to do because the road sensors, the snow squall is not going to be right next to it at times. It might be a couple miles away, but we're trying our best to see like this temperature drop that we think keeps happening with snow squalls, and that's what makes when it snows really hard, and then you have this flash freeze. The road temperatures, it could be, the temperature of the road prior to a snow squall could be pretty warm, above freezing by a couple degrees, but within minutes it can drop. So pretty much the goal of this study is to find out, combine a bunch of case studies to see, how's that changing? Could we put that in a messaging aspect about flash freeze in our text products, like our SBSs or our new snow squall warnings? And can we actually, sorry about that, can we actually improve the snow squall parameters? I'll get into the snow squall parameter if you don't know what that is. So how are we collecting the data? Like I said, we're combing through a bunch of I am. I like history as a weather buff. If you see a lot of weather history posts from Pittsburgh, that's probably from me or a couple other people here, but I have a newspaper archive subscription. And for the last couple weeks, throughout actually months, I've been looking through a lot of newspaper articles around the area, around Pittsburgh, maybe Eastern Pennsylvania, and these are a few of the articles I found. Some of them are old, some of them are fairly new, like the newer one down here, this article here, I think this was like 2017, we got 2004. This one down here with the hazmat, that's from 91, this is from 78. So pretty much what I'm doing is combing through all of these newspaper articles to see, was this a snow squall event? Was it a winter storm event? Why did these accidents happen? Like I-80 is always prone to snow squalls. Can I find any data on it? And, could this help this study that State College is doing? So after we look through the newspapers, I pull up soundings of the day surrounding the area. It doesn't have to be Pittsburgh. If it's close to I-80, maybe I'll pull up Buffalo. We'll look through all the soundings. Does it look like a typical snow squall environment where we have steep lapse rates, where we have lots of moisture all the way up to maybe 20,000 feet, 15,000 feet. I look at the radar to see, is this a typical, so is it not a winter storm where, you have, nor'eastern or something like that? Is this really mainly like coming off the lake? Where is the moisture coming from? You have to look at all those aspects, look at the synoptic setup, and also look at the observations. Like this was an observation in the middle of the day, gust to 38 miles per hour, a quarter of a mile of visibility, heavy snow. So those types of things I'm looking at to see, this is a confirmed snow squall, and that's what caused that accident. And also, like I was saying, trying to improve the snow squall parameter. So this was actually, I took this screenshot from yesterday. So they had some snow bands up in New York, but we also had just a few days ago, we had some snow bands. As you know, we had a lot of snow near I-80 in Franklin. I think we had 8 inches of snow around that area, and that's from snow bands. But the snow squall parameter, I noted as I was on the forecast desk, it was highlighting this area here that night, and it was highlighting it kind of like this color scale here around our area in the middle of the night. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And pretty much what kind of triggers that snow squall, that snow squall like parameter, is this formula here. So all you need is good moisture, probably something from the lake or a leftover low pressure system. You need instability. So what was the temperatures near the surface? What is it doing all the way up? Like those soundings I showed you here, you need some instability. So this is very unstable atmosphere, kind of like what we get in convective season. And does it have high winds? Anything just based off of this formula, you want 80% of relative humidity. You want the steep lapse rates, and then anything above like 9 meters per second is 17 knots. So you want high winds. Gusty winds causes low visibility. So that's what kind of like was checking every single mark in our area the other day. So we're going to capture the data from that event. I just asked one of our guys to do that. So was it a snow squall? Was it just lake effect bands? It's sort of kind of getting into the study we're looking at now, and how do we want to message this as we move forward. So what the study, looking at other studies at State College in Wilmington, Ohio, they did, the image on the left, because this is all about flash freezes for snow squalls, I got from State College from that talk we did in September. And this is sort of interesting, if you could say at least. And also, this is the chart that we got that we're putting all of our data in. You could see the before and after of, you can have temperatures, rarely, I mean, but some cases where you have impacts all the way up to, you know, the mid 40s out in the road. And then after is the clear version. There's the gray version is before, and then the white version is during or after. And you can see just the temperature plummeting. And you can see that even here. Look, road temperature 48, after it's 26. So even PennDOT has problems with this, and that's what we talked about also with during our meeting, that in the back of your mind, you're like, well, it's not going to lay on the road at all. It's 40 degrees outside. It's way above freezing. It's 38 degrees outside. In the snow squall world, it doesn't matter. If it's snowing really, really hard, it'll accumulate on the road. So, I mean, the other day, it was in the mid 40s, 50s the other day, actually. The road temperatures were probably up there, to say the least. But we still got snow accumulating on the road. It doesn't matter when it's snowing really hard. It's like magic. But so that's sort of the messaging we want to get out when you guys are, you know, talking about snow squalls or snow bands or anything, is that to highlight, you know, to get rid of that mentality of it's warm out, it's going to be fine. And you're going to be like, if it snows hard enough, it can get really bad really fast, and that's what causes these accidents. But the next thing we're going to talk about, I'll wait till the end for the questions for that, but is hazard services for the office. And what is hazard services? So it's pretty much replacing what we do for our advisories and how we kind of put out our advisories, our warnings, and our watches. And we're a test site right now. So all these other sites, it's called ATAN, which is, if you see these, like, you're not unsure, you're unsure, just ignore the acronyms for a minute here, because it's just mainly, these are the test sites for this phase that we're going through in the Weather Service, where we're updating our stuff. So, like, you know, Gray, Maine, Caribou, a couple sites in the West Coast, but we are the only site kind of in the Great Lakes region that is testing this. So we just wanted to bring this up. So the only thing is, we're only doing winter. We're not doing wind advisories, and we're not doing wind warnings. We're only doing winter products, excluding snow squall warnings. So after I just talked about snow squalls, we're not really going to be doing snow squalls per se, because that's typically considered convective. So when we're doing thunderstorm warnings, that'll come into play. It'll be weird, but since snow squalls is considered a convective, pretty much mesoscale feature, we're not doing that. We're only doing it for like lake effect stuff. We're doing it for ice storm warnings. We're doing it for winter storms warnings, all that stuff for this test season of 2020 to 2021 winter season. So the goal is pretty much to customize almost our winter storm watches, warnings, advisories, stuff like that, which we haven't done before. So on the right here is sort of like what it kind of looks like as a setup for, say, a winter storm warning. You have the time, you have these impacts and these calls to actions and stuff like that. So I have some screenshots of what we have later. This is actually for a different site. I think this is like, because it says 12,000 feet. That's wrong. But this is probably for like Boulder. But it's pretty much getting into, we can tell, like for this example of specifically saying winter storm warning, what for Pittsburgh means. Because a lot of people don't understand. It might be embedded somewhere in our website, like what is a winter storm warning for Pittsburgh? What is the difference for Mississippi? It's all different based off of where you are and your climatology. So a lot of people are like, why don't we have one? So we'll have the capabilities in our text to say what it is. So I'll show you that in a second here. But the old way of doing it, if you didn't know, if you had never been to our office prior to pandemic, this is sort of how we issue a winter storm watch, warning, anything else. So we create this hazard in our grids. The grids is really the forecast. So we have QPS, sky, pop, dew point temperature like we usually do. But we also have this grid that says hazards, and that's where we put all of our warnings and watches and advisories. So we put out the time, we put out what type of hazard it is, and then we can go in and highlight, this area here will be under a wind chill advisory for such and such time. And then after that, it makes it into the grid. You can see the time that it's highlighted in here. You can actually put multiple hazards. So this morning I made this like mock up here. So I have a wind chill advisory also, and I have a Great Lakes product here. So you have two at multiple times. They're up here in the hazards grids, but the way we're doing it now with this hazard services is just the interface is a little bit different for us, but I'll get into why is it interesting for the media here. So we have all these winter products here. So you go back to, winter advisory for, a lake effect event or something like that. So you could have ice storm warning. So I can go in here and draw, up here near I-80 area, and then it'll highlight that area for a blizzard warning. And then the calls to action, if you saw in the product before, it didn't have, we didn't have this capability before to actually kind of tweak what we wanted to customize what the blizzard criteria is. But we can also say what a blizzard warning means. We can also tweak it to say, I-80 is prone to snow squalls. Please use, use your best judgment or something to that line of text that we can actually put now into the product, which we couldn't do before. So so this shows just what a blizzard warning means. So this is the product here. On the side, you can see blizzard warning means severe winter storm conditions are expected to occur, falling and blowing snow. Here's one for wind chill criteria. This is the criteria for Pittsburgh. So that just kind of helps, negate the people looking for our criteria that we haven't had before. So, but what we want from the media is pretty much, since we're in the process of creating all these types of hazards and calls to action and stuff like that, is if you have any, any kind of like suggestions or stuff like that, that we're always looking for. I think even Jenna one time chimed in on chat about like, what do you call like this portion of West Virginia? We could put that in the where section of this product. So, so that should, kind of, we want suggestions because, not all of us here, I'm from here, but not all of us here are from this area. So if you know things like, this is a really bad area here for ice, or, that's all the suggestion. We'll take any kind of suggestion here. This is a little bit, maybe a little bit, if you don't know Python code, but this is sort of the behind scenes of this product. So I took some screenshots here of, this is the code that Jen and I and one other guy in our office, we're kind of tweaking. It might be over your head, but to get to the nit grit of it is pretty much, we can also put thresholds for like max ice of like this one says max ice for 1.5 inches. And then the impact in the text would say, expect power outages that last for days and extensive tree damage. If you have 1.2, it could be last for a day. And then as it goes down and down, the severity goes down. Same thing here goes for wind chill. Like we can adjust these thresholds and tweak them as best we want. I mean, we can go back. That's another thing probably like I'm doing for snow squalls. If you go back in history and see where the impacts are, but the problem is the population changes and stuff like that. So as we get more densely populated, our thresholds might be less than what we think. If I go back in time to say, oh, we get impacted by, it's not as bad with this opposed to this. So we'll just have to play with that. But I mean, that's sort of the presentation I have about those two things that are going on this winter. We're still going through a lot of like tweaking behind the scenes. I just talked to the guy who's sort of our tech guy who does a lot of coding, and other offices are having issues with some of this coding and how we highlight stuff. So, but this is sort of the pace of what we will be still able to customize stuff. It's just there's lots of tweaking going on. It's a little bit different. So, but